On February 15th, 2020, a woman was found seriously injured. She was lying on her terrace and was unresponsive. It was quite obvious that she had fallen from her balcony. The 38-year-old was taken to a nearby hospital, but unfortunately nothing more could be done for her there. She died of her injuries that same day. At first, it looks like a tragic accident, as if the woman had accidentally leaned too far over the balcony railing and simply fallen down. But soon the evidence suggests that maybe everything happened quite differently, and that Amie Harwick's fatal fall was perhaps much more than an accident. Amie Harwick grew up in the U.S. state of Pennsylvania. She was adopted as a young girl and later came into a foster family. Amie didn't always have it easy, but she is ambitious, adventurous, and full of big goals. In 2001, she made a big move. The young woman went to Los Angeles. There she enrolled in psychology at the university. Amie finances her studies completely on her own. In the U.S., this is a very costly undertaking. To do so, Amie takes on numerous jobs. She mostly works as a waitress at parties or nightclubs, as a dancer, and after a while, she even performs as a fire eater. And the hard work pays off. Amie not only successfully completes her studies, but also earns her doctorate. After that, she opened her own practice. Over the course of her career, Amie made a name for herself in Los Angeles. She worked as a family and couples therapist. She focused particularly on sex therapy and soon had clients from all over Hollywood. She also appeared regularly as an expert on TV and radio shows. Her career was going extremely well until Amie was unexpectedly taken from this world. On the night of February 14th to 15th, 2020, the police were alerted by Amie's roommate, Michael. He is shocked when he sees Amie lying lifeless on the terrace, and what he had witnessed earlier that night. February 14th, the last day in the life of Amie Harwick, actually begins very quietly and harmoniously. Amie spent February 14th, 2020 with a friend named Cleopatra. Cleopatra visited Amie, and Amie showed her the neighborhood in West Hollywood on an extended walk. The two of them visited the Beechwood Cafe and had a cozy brunch together. Amie said everything was going really well. She has exciting clients and some exciting projects planned. She also plans to meet with her ex-boyfriend Drew Carey soon. Drew works as a comedian and TV host and is the host of the TV show The Price is Right. Amie and Drew were even engaged before they split up amicably. After they hadn't been in touch for a while, Amie sent him a text message on February 13th asking to meet up. Drew accepted immediately, and the two want to see each other after the Valentine's Day weekend. Drew still feels very much for Amie, almost 2 years after their separation. Later, in interviews, he says that Amie was the only woman who ever made him feel able to accept himself. He says about the relationship, "I have a lot of issues with my appearance and my body, but in her presence, I could take my clothes off and she just didn't care. She loved me anyway. She didn't care. She just always thought I was hot." However, there are increasing external problems in Drew and Amie's relationship. This is because Drew is in the public eye due to his job as a presenter. Amie fears that joint appearances could damage her reputation as a renowned therapist, especially when she started getting anonymous negative reviews on medical portals that seemed to come from haters. Amie wished that Drew wasn't famous and that people would just leave them alone. Although the two of them tried to work on their relationship, they broke up. At some point, the two lose touch before Amie writes to Drew again on February 13th, 2020. It is unclear whether Amie was perhaps hoping to revive her relationship with Drew Carey. But according to her friend Cleopatra, she was in high spirits that day. At brunch, she cheerfully talks about her job, Drew, and other plans. Later that evening, around 7 p.m., Amie goes to a burlesque show with other friends. While she's there, enjoying herself, Amie's roommate Michael notices something strange. His bedroom is on the first floor of the house. Amie's is on the second. Michael is tired that evening and goes to bed quite early. He wakes up briefly when he hears an unusual noise. It sounds as if a plate has been broken on the floor above him. Michael doesn't think anything of it. He is drowsy and simply assumes that it is Amie who has just come home. Accordingly, Michael falls asleep again without investigating the noise. But it wasn't Amie who came home. And no plate was broken either. While Michael continues to sleep peacefully and Amie is still at the show with her friends, someone has gained access to the house. Meanwhile, Amie is having dinner with her friends after the show. The group leaves the restaurant at 12:18 a.m. Around 1 a.m. on the morning of February 15th, Amie arrives home. She parks her car in the driveway and quickly answers a few text messages from friends. Amie also asks a friend who was at the show to send her the photos from the evening. But she will never see these pictures, because in the next few minutes she will die. Less than 10 minutes later, Amie's roommate Michael is startled awake from his sleep. Just like about 4 hours earlier, he has heard a noise. But this time, it is different. Screams. The screams of a woman that seem to come directly from Amie's bedroom on the floor above him. The screams sound a second time. This time, they sound a bit muffled. Michael panics. He has no idea what to do, but he makes a quick mental leap. Someone is in the house. Someone who absolutely should not be there. And that person seems to be scaring Amie half to death. Michael starts screaming, hoping to scare the intruder away. Amie's roommate knows he has to get help, but he can't find his cell phone in the rush, so he has to act differently. He jumps out of bed and runs down through the garden to the neighbors. There, he knocks on the door in panic. But in the middle of the night, just after 1 a.m., no one opens the door for him. Michael runs down the street and tries the doors of other houses, but no one opens. Then he sees someone out for a late-night stroll on the street who comes to his aid. Michael borrows their cell phone and uses it to make an emergency call. The call goes through to the Los Angeles police at 1:14 a.m. The emergency services respond immediately and find Amie on the patio minutes later, seriously injured. She died in hospital about 2 hours later. 38-year-old Amie is dead and has an extraordinary injury profile. Not only are there signs of a fall on her body, but also extensive strangulation marks on her neck. The police assumed that someone must have attacked Amie when she came home. The supposed fall from the balcony thus quickly turns out to be a cold-blooded murder, especially in connection with the statements of Amie's roommate Michael. He heard a strange noise at around 9 p.m. He reported to the police that it sounded like a plate breaking. As the investigators now reconstruct, it was not crockery that was broken, but the glass door of the house. A burglar smashed it and gained access. While Michael slept peacefully, the burglar must have waited in Amie's bedroom for about 4 hours for her to come home, according to the investigation. Since Amie sent a message to her friend at 1:02 a.m., but Michael called 911 at 1:14 a.m., it is likely that Amie's killer intercepted and attacked her immediately. This attack probably caused the marks on Amie's neck. Shortly thereafter, while Michael was looking for help, the fall from the balcony must have occurred, or rather the push. Amie and Michael's house now becomes a crime scene. And there, the police quickly find two crucial pieces of evidence. In the photos that Amie took with her friends on the evening of February 14th, it can be seen that she is wearing a black pearl necklace. It resembles a rosary, and just such black wooden beads are scattered throughout the upper floor of the house. They lead in a kind of trail from Amie's living room through her bedroom to her balcony. And on the balcony is a syringe filled with a liquid. Amie's roommate Michael and Amie's other friends are totally perplexed when they hear about the syringe. Amie didn't take any drugs, didn't even drink alcohol or smoke. Wherever the syringe came from and whatever was in it, the friends are sure that it does not belong to Amie. The police set about thoroughly investigating Amie's private life. Someone must have had a motive for harming the successful psychologist. But who? Amie's friends are gradually informed and questioned. Drew Carey, Amie's ex-boyfriend, with whom she had recently become close again, is also contacted by the police. When he learns of Amie's violent death, he almost collapses. Any hope of a future with his former fiancée and a possible happy ending is shattered. Other friends provide the police with further details of Amie's love life. Before her relationship with Drew, Amie had another long-term partner, and she had only recently reconnected with him. Amie and her ex-boyfriend Gareth Pursehouse ran into each other at an awards ceremony on January 16, 2020. However, there is not the slightest bit of joy at seeing each other on Amie's side, because Amie suffered a lot from the relationship with Gareth. So badly, in fact, that she had to obtain a restraining order against him twice to protect herself. When Amie and Gareth got together in 2008, the relationship initially seemed very harmonious. According to friends, Gareth was very much in love with Amie and admired her greatly. But at some point the mood must have changed, because Gareth is said to have started attacking Amie repeatedly. Amie began to document the resulting injuries and eventually went to the police. At the time, Amie stated that Gareth had severely physically abused her. He had slammed her head on the floor, pushed her against the walls several times, and choked her until she couldn't breathe anymore. In 2011, Amie Harwick made the following statement to the police. "Gareth Pursehouse pushed me to the ground, held my mouth shut so I couldn't scream, and kicked me. In mid-May, there were several altercations in which Gareth Pursehouse choked me, squeezed the air out of me, pushed me against walls, kicked me, threw me to the ground, held me, slammed my head on the floor, and hit me with his closed fist." Amie also suspects that Gareth broke into her house once after they broke up and stole photos and computer data from her. The two finally split up in 2012 after 4 years together. However, Gareth continued to be intrusive, especially immediately after the breakup. He urges mutual friends to take his side and still asks them to convey messages to Amie. Amie herself no longer wants contact with Gareth after the breakup. Furthermore, Amie's ex-fiancé Drew tells the police about the anonymous hate comments Amie received during her relationship with Drew. He reports that they suspected at the time that Gareth had written these comments out of jealousy. At the chance encounter at an awards show in 2020, Gareth is said to have verbally attacked Amie directly and showered her with accusations. And this despite the fact that there were hundreds of people at the event. Gareth didn't care, he just shouted at her in front of everyone. He is said to have accused her of ruining his life and became hysterical, started crying, and threw himself on the floor in front of Amie. Amie is said to have switched to her professional mode as a psychologist in this situation and managed to calm Gareth down as much as possible. However, Amie is said to have told a friend afterwards that the incident had frightened her, and if anything were to happen to her, Gareth would probably be responsible. When the police hear all this, Gareth Pursehouse immediately becomes the main suspect. Not only does Gareth apparently still bear a grudge against Amie 8 years after their relationship ended, but he has also physically attacked and threatened her in the past. Among other things, he's said to have choked her, and the 38-year-old's body shows corresponding marks. In addition, her murderer broke into her house, and according to Amie's statements, or rather suspicions, Gareth had broken into her house before and stolen photos and data. On February 15, 2020, the police arrested Gareth Pursehouse. He is strongly suspected of having murdered his ex-girlfriend Amie Harwick, a suspicion that was confirmed when police found a syringe in his apartment. It looks exactly like the one found on Amie's balcony and is filled with the same liquid. Analysis shows that the syringes contain pure nicotine. In this dose, nicotine is quite capable of killing a person. This is how Gareth Pursehouse wanted to kill Amie. But he was disturbed during the crime by the cries for help from her roommate Michael's, and so he pushed Amie off the balcony. During Amie Harwick's autopsy, defensive wounds were found on her arms. In addition, male DNA was found under her fingernails. This was Gareth Purshouse's DNA. Nevertheless, he insists he is innocent. His lawyers argue that Amie's death could just as easily have been an accident. The 36-year-old simply fell off the balcony in the dark. Gareth also denies breaking into Amie's house. And even if he did break in, he could have done so just to talk to Amie, according to his defense. There is no evidence of murder. But the court sees it differently, and the evidence against Gareth is enough to convict him of the murder of Amie Harwick. Due to the pandemic at the time, Gareth's trial was repeatedly delayed, but in December 2023, the time had finally come. He was convicted of the murder of his ex-girlfriend Amie Harwick and of breaking into her house, and was sentenced to life imprisonment without the prospect of parole. 2 years after Amie's death, her parents released a statement in 2022 that concluded with the following words: "We hope that 2022 will bring justice for Amie and shed light on her life, work, and achievements." And that's what I'd like to do at the end of this video. Amie Harwick was a person who helped numerous people, not only in her work as a therapist, but also in her private life. Friends describe helpfulness as Amie's most defining quality and a kind of life's work for her. And that is exactly how Amie Harwick's social circle wants to remember her. As a strong, determined woman who always stood up for disadvantaged people. And that's the end of today's video. If you liked the video, please show me that with a like or a comment. It only takes a few seconds, but it's a great way to support the channel. It increases the likelihood that the video will be suggested to people who haven't yet subscribed to Insolito. And I would also appreciate a comment, a subscription, and the activation of the bell. Otherwise, there is not much more to say. I wish you a good morning, noon, or evening, depending on when you watch the video, and hope to see you again in the next video. Until then, ciao guys.